certainly not going to rule out that he could have turn this team and make them have a very good season for whatever standards that is now. Um, and he's been there for a long time. He's been an MSU assistant for over 11 years. Knows the program. Is coached under Coach D'Antonio. So certainly one to throw out there. Second one I would throw in is Courtney Hawkins, who's the wide receivers coach. And MSU, I know they had the 2021 season with Kenneth Walker, but the receivers at MSU during his tenure have been phenomenal. Jaden Reed, Jalen Naylor, even Keon Coleman, even though Spartan fans are scowling that I would even bring up that name right now. And frankly, I think the receivers have been pretty impressive this year. I think they've helped Noah Kim ease into the his second game starting, even though it was against Richmond. So I'll throw those two as internal. Then external quickly, I'll go Mark Stoops, frankly, because he recruits the state of Michigan very well. Gets a lot of guys from the Detroit area and even steals some guys from the University of Michigan who, Michigan State fans would love to steal recruits from Michigan whenever they can. And the fourth one I think is the least likely is Mike Elko, who's the Duke coach. I think he will be one of the hottest names on the market at least 2 games into the season. And I don't know if he would be dying to come to the Big Ten when a job down south could open up or Duke, treats him like royalty. The last one I will rule out immediately is Lance Leipold. I get he recruits Michigan well and he knows the Midwest, was at Wisconsin Whitewater, but Leipold I think is 61. I don't think Michigan State's looking to go for a 4 or 5 year guy. I think they're looking for a program builder similar to what D'Antonio was for them. So with that, Sean, let's get into a basketball question. I've been waiting all day to read this one to you. Uh, who do you think is this year's Penn State? So I guess Dylan implies that the team that would come out of nowhere and, maybe make a run into March and maybe even win the Big Ten tournament.
That's a good question because I don't really, from a basketball watching point of view, there's not going to be another team that plays so different than all the other teams in the league. That's just not going to happen anymore, and I think that's part of the reason why they kind of figured it out late, is because they were so different than every other team. They basically played defense and shot threes and played no centers, and you see that a whole lot in some of the other conferences and small ball and 5 out, but you don't really see that in the Big Ten. So that's why I think it threw them off. So from that point of view, I think we'll see some different stuff from like a Wisconsin. Nobody truly plays like them, playing defense, and they're very different than Penn State. They're very static in their offense, and they're very set oriented in how they run their stuff. But I really don't think there will be a team like that this year. So I'm sure one may pop up, maybe a Maryland type. They don't play like the Big Ten way all the time. Sometimes they do, but if you have an answer, Joe, that I'm forgetting here, I don't really think there is one though.
Maybe one. This is a shot in the dark. Could be Nebraska. I know they're a team a lot of people are a little high on, but not high enough on to even pencil them in to make the tournament. That's one I will throw, especially when they have Hoiberg not on the hot seat. We'll get into this in our basketball preview, but certainly a huge year for them. A year they have to make the tournament. So we'll move on to the next question, and it's from another tortured MSU fan. This one's from Jack. From a sick and tired MSU fan, that I would understand. Is there any way you think Michigan State can uncrown Purdue? And I think he means either the Big Ten tournament or for the Big Ten regular season. Sean, I'm going to give this one right to you. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, at this point, if it's not Purdue, it's probably Michigan State. So, if I would be surprised if it wasn't those two. I think they probably, from a percent, I think probably 95% that it's one of those two teams. And Purdue maybe 60 of that 90, but Michigan State is by far the second best team in this conference, and with who they've got calling their plays and the the relationship he has with some of the referees, I think definitely they can win the conference.
Okay, on a similar note from Colin, and I had to pull this one up. So Blue Ribbon released its Big Ten standing predictions today. We're not going to read out the whole thing. Some highlights are Purdue finishing first, FSU second, and Michigan all the way at 12th. That's a little surprising, but we'll get off that. Between Maryland, Indiana, and Wisconsin, who were all finished in third, fourth, or fifth in the Blue Ribbon poll in that order. Between Maryland, Indiana, and Wisconsin, which of those teams could you see being a dark horse, whether that's Big Ten tournament or even winning the Big Ten regular season?
I think from a Wisconsin point of view, I don't really think dark horse can apply because you kind of know what you're going to get from them. They have a very similar roster to last year, and those players may play better, but if you lose to Wisconsin, you know how that's going to happen. You're not going to. You should. They shouldn't shock anyone, and to make a dark horse run like that, I just don't think that like a team like Wisconsin can win 4 or 5 games in a row in a Big Ten tournament or an NCAA tournament. Maryland, I would say, certainly looking to build on last year. They certainly can, but I mean they were a 9 seed last year, and I'm not really sure that they can really go under the radar either. If they're playing well and playing defense and getting their home crowd behind it, like I think they'll be better than like a dark horse, if that makes sense. And then Indiana, I guess them because they could if so many new pieces and pretty much an entirely different team from last year. Probably one starter will be the same. Xavier Johnson missed all of last year. Then they got Kellel Ware and McGenzie and Baco. So I could see a way that Indiana starts off really poorly and figures it out late and kind of comes in as a dark horse that way. So I would have to say Indiana out of those three making dark horse. But those should all be really solid teams. And they all three of those teams have goals of being a protected seed in March. And if it doesn't go so well and they get an 8 seed, they can definitely knock off a 1 seed. All three of them.
Excellent. And we'll finish off with another basketball question. This one's from Corey. I believe he's an Illinois fan based on his Instagram profile. Sean, is there any way that Brad Underwood is on the hot seat in your opinion?
I mean, if he were to be on the hot seat, that would be very, very interesting. I don't think so, but I mean, maybe I would lean against it though. He's one of the best coaches in the Big Ten, and that's not just from his time at Illinois. He was a great coach at Stephen F. Austin for years. Took that team to the tournament multiple times, and in his one season at Oklahoma State, also took them to the tournament before getting the Illinois job. So I think he's built up enough credit to survive one bad season, and you could say, all right, well, that was last year, but they still made the tournament. Like, you can't. I don't think Illinois is at a spot as a program to fire somebody who's missed the tournament once. And I know they haven't gotten to the Sweet 16. And I know they've missed the tournament before, but he's building this program. I know the culture wasn't great last year, but I think it would be really harsh. I maybe they could do it, but I don't think he's on the hot seat unless things go really, really bad. But I don't think so. What about you?
No, I don't think he is. And, I'll just avoid any question that's probably going to be DM to us right now, which is what coaches are on the hot seat. I think number one is, maybe a less obvious answer, but one that would make sense. It's probably Ben Johnson at Minnesota. Just 2 very poor years, and losing your best player to an interconference foe is not a great look. And I do feel bad for him. I think he was put into a position to not fail, but what he wasn't ready for in a conference that is, just cannibalizes itself, quite frankly. So, certainly he would be number one. And number two, I don't even think his seat is all too warm, and this is probably an off-season thing, but it's Jawan/Chris Holtman. I think both have had a lot of success. Jawan has had more March success, while Chris, aside from last year, has had more consistent success, winning 20 games multiple times. So, for the two of them, I think the season would have to go really south. And for those programs, expectations going really south would be missing the NCAA tournament again. And, quite frankly, I'd be shocked if both missed the NCAA tournament. If one did, one went in. Wouldn't be the most shocking. But if you put a gun to my head right now, I don't want to spoil anything for our basketball preview. I think as of early September 2023, both would get in. That's just, maybe it's homerism, but logically, I couldn't see both Michigan and Ohio State missing the tournament again.
And the only other one that I could see a team moving on from is Hoiberg at Nebraska. They have been really poor for years, and they showed some promise last year. And I think maybe if they do go back to being that bottom feeder, maybe they make a move. But I think after last year, I think there's reason to be optimistic for Nebraska. I think Collins is probably safe at Northwestern after making the tournament last year. So then at this point, you're getting to you're kind of running out of names who are people fired. I think Johnson they'll probably move on from him either way because the season. I mean, they'd have to play way above what they have in the past to make the NCAA tournament. But there's certainly a path for a change, and I'm sure there will be. One of these teams will have a really bad season, but I think that's what it's going to take. I could see no changes other than Minnesota, but there's always a couple unexpected things, so who knows really in the end.
Yeah, and if today and this week's been any, I know it was football, today's of any lesson, Mel Tucker might have been on the hot seat. And I think that would have been going into next year because I think that Detroit maybe overhyped it. But, things like this, and, it's never fun to speculate that this stuff goes on behind the scenes. But, crazy situations, let's just call them, happen. And, you know, we can never anticipate those. So, yeah.
So that's all we have for you today in the week 2 recap, rather, of the Big Ten football season. We'll be back in a couple of days for the week 3 preview. Probably be doing twice a week until at least for the next month, maybe until college hoops season starts. Obviously, if anything comes up, you'll hear about it on the Instagram account, and send your questions into Joe.